Hi, I'm Leanne, and today we're going to talk about sex in your marriage. And I say marriage because it's very different than sex when you're dating. These are two different worlds. So now we're going to talk about sex in your marriage. You've been together, maybe you've had some kids. The thing I want to say that I hate more than anything is the dumbest saying in the world: foreplay is washing the dishes. I have this friend and she says it, and I love this saying. Be so for real right now. Do I want my dishes washed? Yes. I, of course, want my dishes washed. Does having my dishes washed make me want to have sex? No. Nope. Mm-mm. They're actually not connected. Those two things aren't connected. And I feel like as women, we love to make them connected because they seem like they should be connected. And I get the point: help around the house, be a good partner. But I think that actually becomes a trap because what I see is a lot of couples, maybe they've had a rough patch. Maybe they're on the other side. Maybe they have a good partner and there's still not the sex life they want. And so it's almost like backward math. Like, if we fix this, we'll fix that. And I think that is a common way of looking at it and thinking about it. But those two things actually separate. By combining them, we are actually hurting our sex life and our relationship. Because then we create this energy of, I do this to get that. And we really don't want that energy in our relationships around sex. We don't want it to be this equals that. We want these to almost be two separate worlds that we're working on. Your spouse should be helping with dishes. There should be fair play in the house. Like, yes, yes, yes. Be really careful to keep these topics separate. And I say that because this will happen a lot in marriage counseling. You fix the relationship, things should be better, and they're not. And so if we see them as two separate systems, we can work on them in different ways. Now, does your intimacy, your sex depend on day to day things? Yes, but it's not in the way you think. So, how your day to day impacts your sex life is when there is tension, when there are fights, when there's a disagreement. If there's never a physical repair, there will be physical damage, like damage to that physical part of your relationship. So, I always tell people every repair needs to include something physical. We got in a fight, we were angry at each other. We come back together. We hug. We have that 20-second hug that kind of like resets our system. We continue to keep that physical connection positive. We're careful when our partner is vulnerable to not physically threaten or challenge them. We're just going to keep that space as neutral as possible because, again, we want to keep these things separate systems. So we want to keep our repairs. We want to make sure that we're physically reconnecting, that we're physically repairing, because especially with women, we will physically be shut down and not want to have sex if we've had too many ruptures. The other thing is we need to stop putting the pressure on our partners to always get us in the mood to have sex, because we've been married. That excitement, that spark, what worked before. I'm laughing. Sometimes we're dealing with like a wet matchbox. Like, we've had life come through. And so we really want to make sure, as our relationship is going from dating sex to marriage sex, we want to change how we're getting turned on by each other. What is turning us on? So again, what worked in the beginning isn't going to work 10 years in. So we want to find out as a couple, what gets each person in the mood? What is it that each person wants? What helps each person? And these are conversations that need to be ongoing and updated regularly. What worked one year might not work another year. So we want to make sure we're constantly updating our ledger of what our partner's needing, wanting, and what does that. I'm such a fan of having a schedule, having an agreed upon, this is how much we're agreeing as a couple that we want to have sex based on both parties. And this is when we're scheduling that. Can spontaneous things happen? Of course. But are spontaneous things likely to happen within a marriage? No. But if you know, okay, this is the time we've set aside for sex, then you can start leading up to it, building up to it, doing things to get each person in the mood. Also, vary things. It's very common that we save sex for the end of the day when both people are exhausted. Play around with that. Maybe that's the only time that works. or maybe you introduce different times into the mix. And again, if you want to be really careful to be communicating about what frequency works for each partner, it's never good and to create a dynamic where it's very out of balance, where one person's having way more sex than they want, or one person's getting way less sex than they want. It creates a weird dynamic. And so we want to really try to find where is that middle ground where both people, one person's not feeling like they're having to do it too much, and one person's feeling like they're not getting it enough. You want to find that balance within the relationship and set those clear boundaries. And again, really be asking your partner, what moves the needle for you? What gets you into this space? Checking in. How are you feeling our sex is? How are we doing it enough? Are we not doing it enough? What do we need in this season? How can we support each other in this? Being very open to learning new things because, again, if the sex you're having today is the same sex you were having 10 years ago, you're not staying current. That's like not updating your iPhone for 10 years. Come on, new things are coming up, new things are happening. The system's requiring something different. Update the system. There's a lot of great websites that help. I'll link those below, but they talk about female pleasure. So, men, if you have not been keeping up with what is going to make your woman turned on, again, what you knew when you were dating, and there's hormones and there's fantasy and there's just this infatuation with one another. That's the aphrodisiac. That was what was driving a lot of it in the beginning. That's gone. 10 years in, that's not going to cut it. So you need to up level your skills and what you're doing to make it still exciting. So be up leveling your skills, be open to trying new things. And like most things I'll talk about in relationships, make it playful, make it fun. It's not taking it too seriously. It's being open to learning. It's realizing that both people are evolving, changing what they're wanting, what they're needing, what turns them on. That's going to change throughout your relationship. And so you want to be continuously talking about it. And the other thing I just plead for men and women, don't take it personally. What's going on with your partner sexually might have something to do with you. You should explore that. And it might not. Women change, our hormones change throughout time. Things are changing, shifting. Men, I've seen men who are less desiring sex when they're stressed at work, when they're feeling the burden of the family, when a lot's happening, when they're overloaded. Like things can change personally that have nothing to do with the partner. And it makes it really hard to support your partner when you're feeling like it's a reflection of you. So as hard as it is, you need to get yourself out of it so that you can then meet your partner where they're at and see what they need. Again, being playful, trying new things, experimenting. This is a space where we want to be able to explore. A lot of our relationships in the bedroom, but out of the bedroom, we stop playing and we stop exploring, and it stops making it fun and exciting. So play, do different things, try different techniques, try different things, and really figure out what makes this valuable to both parties. And then really be up leveling your skill every year because that is going to help your partner stay more engaged in the process. I think it's easy to get in a pattern in a relationship. We see it in relationships, the pursuer, the withdrawer, that withdraw, shutdown cycle that happens often in relationships around sex. Someone might pursue it and then they'll shut down and withdraw. And then when they withdraw, they're taking away affection, they're taking away love, they're taking away their presence, they're kind of pulling away. And so if you're that person in the relationship, I want you to notice that pattern and kind of hold yourself accountable to that pattern of, okay, I'm not getting what I want. And honestly, it's kind of a pout pattern. Like, and then I start pouting. And we want to pay attention to where within ourselves we start shutting down and pulling away, and then challenge ourselves in that area. Can we step forward? Can we talk about what's happening? Can we show up differently? On the other side, if your partner is like kind of withdraw or pull away, you also want to be careful because as they're pulling away, and this is for men and women. I see it both sides in my practice. One gender or the other wants more sex. It's not always men wanting more sex. It's not always women wanting more sex. But in that pull away, it is eroding certain important things in the relationship. When they withdraw and they feel that they're not getting that, need that, it's a wound, they're feeling unloved, uncared for, and then they start pulling away their care and their affection. So we don't want to get caught in that cycle. I'm not going to put all the pressure on the person who's upset they're not getting sex and pounds. We also want to look at the person who is kind of withholding something their partner's really wanting and needing. And those are where we have to have conversations. What's getting in the way? How can we make this a priority? What do we need? And really, we want to catch it before it gets to that point, because then once someone's shut down, it's a lot harder for both people to want to come back together. And again, this is where schedules and routines help. No one likes it, yeah, no one finds it sexy, but that predictability, that schedule that you both agreed upon helps as that starting point of how much is enough? How much do you want to go in between having sex? And just knowing for that other person, for both people, like this is a priority, it is on the calendar, and this is what we've agreed upon, kind of helps break it out of this very I mean, people got different opinions. My opinion is in a marriage, we don't need this big initiation pursuer dynamic because it just gets old fast. It doesn't feel good for either party. So having it on the calendar, having it set, it becomes something that the relationship is holding, not one person or the other. If we're leaving sex up to being spontaneous in a relationship, we're just opening ourselves up to issues, because then it's your fault we haven't had sex. It's your fault we haven't had sex. Well, you're the reason. Well, you didn't do this. You didn't do that. It takes on this charge that it does not need to take on if we can just set the schedule and then hold ourselves accountable to showing up at those times. And again, yeah, let's move it to tomorrow. This is a bit but really holding ourselves accountable to the date versus the other person accountable. Because that's what starts happening, is that now the other person is the reason that we're having more sex than we want or having less sex than we want. And their mood is determining everything. And we want to really break away from that dynamic. And we really want to get into a space of, again, sex is something that we're both responsible for upholding in the relationship. We need to decide what that looks like for us and how we're going to maintain it. And then we're both accountable to ourselves for maintaining that. And that's why I say too, play around with it. It doesn't always, every sexual interaction does not have to be this huge thing. And I think that's what we also have to be clear on. So it's kind of maybe once a week you have a main course. This is bigger. You're going all out. You're really setting the stage. And sometimes once a week, it's just this morning we have sex in the shower on the way to work. It doesn't have to always be this big production. And where does it fit in our schedule and in our interests of where do we line up where it's okay, yeah, we want it to be really special, and sometimes it doesn't have to be really special. And how can we even find that within the week is my encouragement. Don't always just have it be this, oh, we have to have sex tonight because it's the night we said we'd have sex. Okay, maybe there's a date night and that you're and the date night we want to have a bigger production. But then once during the week, twice during the week, we just want these little sex snacks where we just have sex and move on with our lives. Kind of my whole idea around relationships is we have to move from dating to marriage. The idea that your partner's rejecting you when they don't want sex, we have to move beyond this idea because it becomes a trap. It becomes this heavy, I have been rejected. It's not about you. Y'all are married. They just don't want to have sex. It's not about you. It's not personal. It's just the moment they're in. And so we really want to get out of a rejection story, because rejection triggers the same part in our brain as depression. So if you're asking your partner for sex, they say no, and you feel like they've rejected me, it triggers the space of depression. I have been rejected. Then what do we do when we've been rejected? We get angry, we withdraw, we shut down, whatever a million things we do when we're not feeling good. So we want to even just get rid of that sex is a rejection space. It's just a space. We should be able to say, hey, I'm in the mood. Are you? Yes, no. Not, do you want me? And this is all about me. No, I'm just, are you, hey, do you want to have sex? Are you in the mood? Okay. Now we might say, tag, you're it. I'm in the mood to have sex. Do you want to have sex with, let's make time for that in the next 24 hours. Okay. But if we can get out of the space of I don't want to initiate because I'll be rejected, it just puts this whole energy around it, and it takes away that playfulness. It becomes so serious. So in our marriages, we want to have this playful energy around sex. We want this to be a space where we can be playful and free and experience something different with each other, which is different than our normal life with each other. Usually, when you're running a family, everything's structured and does mean things and has all these implications. Can sex be a space in your marriage that gets to be playful and fun? And as a couple, you can decide, how do we want to handle bids for sex? How do we want to make that fit within our marriage? Do we want it to be a tag you're it type of thing? Do we want it to be uh, two no's and a yeses? Like, I can say no twice and then I have to say yes the next time. Do we want it to be like, hey, we don't even, again, like a schedule, like we don't even have to ask because it's just on the schedule. Like, whatever you can do, but I really encourage you to take it out of the realm of rejection once you're married, because it's not about you. It's about the other person. And again, that gives you more data. Like, what does this other person need to be in that mood? And how can I bring them into this space? But again, it's going to be a lot easier if it's playful than if it's really serious and heavy. And we don't want anyone ever feeling like, well, if I say yes, they'll be happy. And if I say no, they'll be pissed. Like, that's not how we want the energy in our relationships to be. So, how do we make this a more creative, fun endeavor than like a really serious request? Sex is a space that we do need to be accountable to ourselves in our relationships, in our marriages. And I'm not, again, I am never saying that you should be forced into having sex. That is never what we want. We don't want these dynamics where you feel obligated to have sex or you'll get in trouble. That's an unhealthy pattern. And at the same time, so it's like two things can be true. That can be true. And also, you are your partner's only chance at having sex. In the kind of marriages we're wanting, if we're in a monogamous marriage, the only way they're going to have sex is through me. And so I have to be accountable to myself. Am I fulfilling that need for my partner? And again, this is what we talked about, an agreed upon need. Someone wants it every day, someone wants it once a week. We got to find the middle ground. That's just math. That's just averages. We have to kind of find a middle ground. And again, that middle ground will change over time. But if I'm chronically not wanting to have sex, that's on me. And I'm not allowed, my rule for you is you're not allowed to blame the dishes and blame work stress forever and all these other things. You got to really figure out what's going on with me. Am I under too much stress and it's killing my libido? Am I doing something to my body that's killing my libido? Is there medication I'm taking? Is my testosterone low? Is my estrogen low? Like, really testing our hormone levels, just really taking charge of what is happening within me that is impacting my desire to have sex in the relationship. And again, it's easy to look outward. What's my partner doing? But I think most of the time, there's an inward piece too, something that we are holding that we need to figure out. What is it mine? What is mine that I'm holding that I need to shift so that I want to show up in this way for my partner? Because again, the goal isn't to force yourself to do something you don't want to do. The goal is, what's going on and what do I need to get myself in a space where I'm wanting to do this? Because this is part of marriage and I want to be able to participate in that in a fun way.